And I'm going to ask you to grab one of those available text boxes. And don't be shy about the animals. Sometimes I use a little visual cue so students know which box is theirs. And you're going to tell us not the answer to this question. Don't tell us what comes next, but what pattern do you notice? So you'll click in any available text box and tell us the pattern that you notice. All right, now I'd love to hear from some of you. If you noticed a pattern, go ahead and raise your hand. And at this point, I am actually looking to see all of my students raise their hands, and I'll keep some observational notes if there's one or two that don't, just to make sure that I reach out to them. But I'll show another technique for using all the tools at your disposal. So if you do see a pattern, go ahead into Collaborate and raise your hand. All right, I can see we have 7 big thinkers right now and more to come. And Joyce, let's start with you. Can you tell us the pattern that you are seeing?
From rows, 2 rows to 4 rows.
Joyce, can you do it one more time for us? So you're cutting out just a little there.
Does the pattern go from 2 rows to 4 rows?
So 1 row to 2 rows to 3 rows to 4 rows. If your response on the slide was that, go ahead and change the box to yellow. So if your pattern that you noticed was also 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows, change your text box to yellow. And if you changed it to yellow, you can lower your hand. We're going to look for some different ideas that we had seen. And Dawn, can you share with us the pattern that you noticed?
I noticed one group of 3.
And where did you see that?
When I looked at the array, they were all touching, so I called it a group.
And which of these images was the one you're referring to?
The first one. So it's really one, so it looks like a row of 3. Yeah, so one group of 3.
Very cool. If you saw this as a group, go ahead and change the color of your text box to green. And you can also lower your hand. And And if you have a different pattern that you notice, keep that hand up. And let's hear from Allison.
Hey, I was kind of noticing the either the shapes or the colors. So the one that I typed in the box was about the outlines of the shapes and how the colors change. So I noticed the first one's pink and then blue and then it looks like black and then yellow. So I'm wondering if the next one will be pink.
Ooh, very cool. So is there some kind of pattern happening with color? If you brought color into this, change your box to a lovely blue color. All right, and we could continue to look at some different patterns that we notice. One nice thing for getting students ready to talk about classification and categorization is having them listen to a peer and then having to summarize their own response as being categorized similar to a peer. So that's one of the structures that are involved here. Um, and so now I'd like to hear from you all about what you think comes next. And I think maybe if everyone wants to go ahead and find a box and design their next one, we'll take about a minute. And there's room on slide 8 or 9. You can write in words what you think the fifth one will be, or you can draw it out. And you're welcome to also use paper pencil. It doesn't need to be a virtual drawing. If you use paper and pencil, I've put the directions for how you upload an image. And again, if you're just joining us, the link is in the chat box there, and we are drawing out what we think the fifth image will be, or you can write it in words. Now, one of the neat things that ties together some digital literacy with the ideas of multiplication is, did you know you can press the Control D button? And what that does is it will duplicate whatever you've clicked. Now that's really important for kiddos as they are learning to multiply, because suppose they made 5 rows of clouds, like we've got one of them there, and then we duplicated the 5 rows to make many different columns. That's our idea of multiplication, being we're going to multiply this column many times. I see someone's doing that duplication with the hearts right now. And so we were able to see that same column repeated, which brings us into that idea of repeated addition. All right, other than the the digital literacy where we're learning how to copy and paste images or write in text boxes. What other math concepts do you see happening here on these slides? You're welcome to turn on your microphone and chat. You're also welcome to type in the chat box there.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, Raha, what'd you see?
I'm noticing that some of the boxes are using the words rows and columns, and those, even though we don't think of it as math words, that definitely helps our thinking and multiplication and repeated addition. And then we can take those vocab words and connect it to some of the visuals, and there's a clear idea of what rows and columns or arrays might look like in multiplication or addition, because everyone's kind of making groups of something.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, so, you know, we can informally bring up these vocabulary terms also. I noticed that some people used images that they drew with, you know, marker and paper, and I love showcasing that you can use a lot of low tech in this high tech environment. And the person who made the red circles on slide 8, can you tell us what extra little challenge you had with that one? Who did the little red circles?
When I selected the image and I pasted it in, it had it set up so it was 3 rows of 5. So I then had to spin it so that I had to rearrange the array so that it appeared as though that were 5 rows of 3.
Neat. And if we're following, you know, our guide that we had mentioned there, we would want to see 5 rows, not necessarily 5 columns, which brings us back to Raha's point about using that vocabulary. Fabulous. One thing that I love about this routine is that you can make it so open, and you can also, you know, invite kids to be creative with it. All right, folks, we are going to jump into our rich